Hi everyone, welcome to our 9th EMEA Rundeck by PagerDuty virtual meetup. My name is Shanda, I'm a community program manager at PagerDuty. I'm really happy to be here. And with me today, we have some special guests, Isidro Javier García Fernández. He's a mathematician and computer science. And then Andrzej Nowicki, database engineer at CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research. And starting off with our agenda, we'll have some PagerDuty Commons announcements. Then we'll have CERN Orchestrates with Rundeck, with Isidro and Andrzej, our special guests. And then our very own Justyn Roberts will be talking about self-service automation with Rundeck. And of course, we'll have you, all of you, participating in the Q&A. Before I start with the announcements, I just want to do a couple of housekeeping notes. You know, this is a community meetup, so we're happy to go off topic. You can ask your questions in a Q&A box or in the comments anytime throughout the presentations. We'll get to it in a certain time. And then leave your feedback in our post-meetup survey. We want to hear from you and improve this meetup and do the best for our community. This meetup is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our community playlist on YouTube later and will be also shared with you in an email. Do you know that you can be the next speaker? Yes, we are waiting for you to share your projects, anything that you're doing with the Rundeck open source software. It can be as little as a lightning talk, right? You have one idea in mind and you would like to share. We can help you building the slides, giving a direction, a few talking points. We have our PagerDuty project internally at PagerDuty, so we can help you. Perhaps it's the first time you'll be presenting, and we want to give you the stage. It's a great opportunity for you, and of course also for us to hear what you're doing with the product. If you're wondering how and why Isidro and Andrzej are here today, it's because Isidro posted his Summer Lab at CERN project in LinkedIn and tagged Rundeck and PagerDuty. And we were able to find his project. So that's the magic of being connected. If you do that, we can also find you, but you can also send your project to us in the email in the PagerDuty Commons community, and we'll get to you. In other notes, we'll have our webinar series demo roundups. You can register to watch a live demo. It's every third Thursday of the month, 4 p.m. GMT time. Coming up, the next Thursday, we'll have Zero Trust Security and Runbook Automation. Jay Cohen, the Senior Product Manager. And then we'll have every third Thursday of the month, interesting topics about PagerDuty Operations Cloud and also automation. And tomorrow, we'll have a live stream with the Prod Dev team running Runbook Automation and Rundeck. It's version 5.10. Release notes, don't miss that. It's tomorrow at 5 p.m. GMT. You can watch on LinkedIn. On April 29th, you can supercharge your Rundeck plugins with AI with Senior Product Manager Jake Cohen. It's 4 p.m. GMT. Don't miss this webinar. We'll also, if you cannot join live, it will be recorded so you can watch later. We're very, very excited for this year's KubeCon in London from 2 to 4th of April. You can find us in not one, but 2 booths, one for demos and one for Rundeck by PagerDuty Play Zone. This is the first time we'll have the Rundeck by PagerDuty new swag items. You can stop by, you can play some games. If you're interested in demos, then you can go to our other booth and talk to PagerDuty experts who will share more of the product with you. And it doesn't stop there. Your next stop is engineering excellence. You can join PagerDuty, AWS, and Cortex for a happy hour at KubeCon London. It's Thursday, the 3rd of April. Happy hour time. We'll have a double-decker bus leaving from Excel London, the main location for KubeCon. We'll have food, we'll have drinks, we'll have our automation dynamic duo, Martin and Justyn, talking about how you can build your self-service portal with Powerful Orchestrator. Remember, the place is limited, so make sure you reserve your spot today. One more from me, and then we'll go to the main presentations. Go to PagerDuty Commons, right? This conversation don't need to stop here. You can join the community of digital operations professionals to continue this conversation. You can get a free PagerDuty University certification and more if you leave a message in the introductions section telling about this meetup. You can get a special gift. Ask questions, find answers, register for upcoming events and more. PagerDuty Commons. And now I'll pass over to Andrzej and Isidro, and they will present their project and talk about how CERN orchestrates with Rundeck.
Thanks for joining. So today we want to present together with Isidro the project that he was working on. So CERN is an international organization. We have a project, we have some projects for students to get involved. There are many different ways to be involved with the CERN community. One of those projects is the summer student projects. So Isidro was a summer student at CERN last year, and he was working on a Oracle configuration discrepancies check project. But before we go into the details of the projects, let me introduce myself. So my name is Andrzej Nowicki. I'm originally Polish, but I'm at CERN in Switzerland since 2020, so almost for 5 years now. And I have 12 years of experience with Oracle databases, but also I have roughly 8 years of experience with Postgres and MySQL. So my main tasks are simply database engineering, database management and administration at CERN. And over to Isidro right now.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Isidro. Thank you for the invitation. I'm originally from Spain. As I said, I'm a mathematician and computer scientist. Last year, I finished my studies at the university. And last year, I was at the CERN OpenLab Summer Student, which was a very, very good opportunity to grow, to learn from each other, like an international and cultural environment. And I really enjoyed that. And I really encourage every student to go to apply for CERN OpenLab Summer Student, which is, I think, is a great opportunity. And currently, I'm a solutions consultant. I work at a supply chain company, which is a Dutch company set in Malaga. Yeah, you have my LinkedIn if you want to follow.
Okay, so just a quick introduction of what is CERN. So it's the European Organization for Nuclear Research. You probably have heard about us. We are an organization that was founded in the 1954 after the Second World War. We are located in Geneva in Switzerland. And the main aim of the organization is to understand the fundamental particles and the physics of the universe that's surrounding us. You might have heard about the world's largest particle accelerator, the Large Hadron Collider, so a 27-kilometer long tunnel, which is roughly 100 meters in the underground, where we host experiments. So we have the ATLAS, CMS, ALICE, and LHCb experiments. So CERN is collecting a lot of data, colliding the particles, seeing if there are any subparticles that will be created to try to understand the physics of the world around us. And it's an international project, let's say. So we have 24 countries that are participating, as in paying for our operations. And then we are hosting thousands of scientists globally that are affiliated with us in some way. And we are creating huge amounts of data. So IT at CERN is quite important because scientific computation is getting more and more complex. We are hosting more and more data. So the IT department at CERN is roughly 400, 500 people. It fluctuates with the summer students, with different types of affiliations. So we are responsible, as you can imagine, like in any big organization, we have the HR systems, we have the invoicing systems, but we also, what is specific about CERN is that we have a lot of experimental data, just because you can consider the experiments, the detectors like ATLAS, like a huge photo camera, which is taking photos, 10 million photos every second. We are not keeping all of the photos. Every photo that we take, we only keep 1/1,000,000th of what we find interesting, but that's a huge amount of data. And of course, we are using the databases as well to to store some parts of the data. So Oracle was selected as a database solution in the 82. So here you can see that we started with the version 2.3 in the 81, and like I wasn't born in 81, Isidro wasn't born in 81. So we are talking about some solutions that have been at CERN since like 81, so 40 years now. So to me that's absolutely incredible. So yeah, we have more than 100 Oracle databases with more than almost, I think, 12,000 Oracle accounts. The environment is quite complex. So we have RAG clusters. We are using DataGuard for replication. We had some Golden Gate. I think it's not there anymore, but we are using the OEM monitoring, the Airman, the Apex. We are using a little bit of the Oracle Cloud. So, everything is interconnected. So it's quite a complex setup. And since 2011, we are providing for our internal needs also a service, which is called Database on Demand, where we are providing MySQL, Postgres, and InfluxDB instances for, let's say, people in the CERN community. So whenever somebody has an experiment or they have a need to have a database, there is a selection process whether they will use the Oracle or MySQL or Postgres, but this is essentially the service that we as the team we are providing. And the total size of the database environment is something incredible, because for Oracle, we have more than 5 petabytes of data right now. For the DBOD, it's roughly 150 terabytes. So we are talking about huge amounts of data. And of course, this brings challenges to how you handle an environment with a size like that. So over to you, Isidro, to explain a little bit more about the project that he was working on.
Thank you. Yeah, to introduce a bit about the project AIM, I will talk about the databases that we have at CERN. As Andrzej told, we have like more than 100 databases at CERN. Most of them are RAG databases, which is a special type of databases which stays on a cluster. And inside a cluster, we have different nodes, different servers, where there are some Oracle database instances running, and there's a lot of information there, a lot of parameters. So if we change, yeah, and so each database runs from specific path, each database instance. So if we change some parameters, it needs to change in everywhere. So that information is stored in several repositories. If we move on, we have LDAP, which is a repository used for storing scripts and automation tasks. Here we have a lot of parameters, like the SC entity, which is highlighted here. We also have SC version and of course, Oracle home path. Indeed, we have to make sure that that information is synchronized and we don't see any mismatch in the information from, for example, if the end of the home path is the SC version, we need to make sure that the SC version is correct. And that information is maybe introduced manually or maybe introduced automatically, but we need to check that. Then we have the running configuration, which is indeed what is truly running in the system. We have information about the currently running databases, all the currently running databases instances, and we need to check if the Oracle home path from the instances matches with the Oracle cluster database. And all of that information needs to be compared also with the LDAP and with the next monitoring tool, which is the Oracle Enterprise Manager. And it's another repository where we hold all of the information about the databases. Indeed, that's the monitoring tool. So we should have all the information about the system, which is stored. And here we have also some information about the databases instances, Oracle home paths, and even the cluster ones. So we have all that information in different repositories and also in the running system. This is a constantly changing environment, as the running system is constantly changing. So we need to check if we need to update some information in the OEM or in the LDAP, and also check some information between the LDAP repositories, as I said, checking some parameters that if there's a mismatch there. So there might be some issues if we fill in the information manually, or if we need to check some automation tasks. For example, maybe we have some information in the Oracle Enterprise Manager that there's a database running, but indeed, if we check the running configuration, this database is not running anymore because maybe there's some technical issues or they're shut down for any reason. So we need to synchronize every information from the metadata repository, checking with the running information. So the main overview of the project aim is to avoid issues. Yeah, if we move them to the next slide, we avoid issues by monitoring script functionality. We need to check all of that information, that all of that information is correct, that is synchronized over the running configuration and also from the metadata repositories. So the main objective of the project was to make a detection in the discrepancies in the Oracle databases with the running setup and the configuration. Make a report where we can see how many discrepancies did we find, if we found some discrepancies inside any repository. For example, we will have discrepancies in LDAP. We have another table, discrepancies in Oracle Enterprise Manager. But the main purpose of the project is to have a table where we compare all discrepancies between LDAP, OEM, and the running configuration. And indeed, this report will be sent to the DBA team so they can check it. And in the end of the project, we had enough time to complete a bit more the project. So we solved that discrepancies, and we will see how we did that in the demo. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to the demo. Normally, Isidro would perform the demo because this was his project, but he's no longer with us, so he lost access, unfortunately. So let me just show you how we are using Rundeck. So we have an instance. I hope that my VPN didn't stop running. Oh, it's okay. So apologies for a little bit of a delay because as it was mentioned, I'm currently in Santiago in Chile, on the other side of the world on a business trip. So my ping to CERN back home is 250 milliseconds. So this will be a little bit slow, but this is not normally the case when we are at CERN. It works quite well. So for the Oracle service that we are providing, we are using the Rundeck to automate some of the administration tasks. So in the Oracle admin project, we have some jobs that we use to, for example, to upgrade the database, run a cluster, clone a database, refresh a clone. So we are relying quite heavily on that to automate our services. But we will not cover that today because the idea is to present what Isidro has done during his summer project. So let's go into the project that was created for the purpose of this project. Rundeck project for the purpose of our needs of the discrepancies check. So here you can see the structure of the project. We are using some helper jobs. This is a way of making sure that you do not mix the logic a little bit between the jobs. So just to compartmentalize the stuff that's being executed, we have some steps, and essentially we can maybe before we explain how it works, just to have a discrepancy that we can follow, just to create a discrepancy, let me just go into an LDAP editor. And we have a database which is called PagerDuty. And let's just reload the LDAP information and let's just create a fake discrepancy so that we have something that we can follow, that it's actually it will be automatically recognized. So let's just call the Oracle home fix me. So imagine that this is not a fix me, but imagine that the database administrator is doing some kind of a check or maybe doing an upgrade, and he makes a typo in the Oracle home. Like stuff like that happens. This is completely normal. So let's just assume that here we have a discrepancy that somebody makes a typo, and just to show you that we are also checking the monitoring side. So this is the monitoring that Isidro explained. So this is our monitoring, the enterprise manager. We can configure the Oracle home here as well, and we can just make a different typo. Let's do Rundeck test, and now I just need to save the changes. It's gonna take a second for it to be applied, but now the changes are saved. So let's do the let's run the, let's say, the full job. So the full job will automatically run all of the helpers as it is needed. And as it, along the way, as it runs, I will try to follow the execution, what we are doing in each of the steps. And if I'm wrong, Isidro will interrupt me and correct me, but hopefully this will not happen much. So right now we are running the full execution of the full job, which will collect all of the information. So here we see that this is our Rundeck machine and it's doing the steps. So for example, it's querying the data from LDAP. It's listing the available servers. So one of the challenges that we have faced during this project is that sometimes a database server is down for some kind of maintenance. Maybe it's not available, maybe somebody is changing the memories on the server. Maybe it's down because there is a power issue, and we want our job to still run. So what is the first and most, let's say, time-consuming part of this job is to actually get a list of all of the database servers that we have at CERN and try to connect via SSH to every single one of them. So this is actually what's happening right now. We can see that our script is trying to connect via SSH to all of the servers in our data center that are described as a database servers. So while it's doing that, it's creating a list of the servers that will be connected to, just to see what is the running configuration. So this job typically takes like 3 minutes to run to do the full logic of the comparison of getting all of the data from all of the different data sources. So now we need to wait a little bit. Let me just check quickly if there are maybe any questions in the chat. I don't see any questions. Okay.
So what kind of scripting, Andrzej? Is it mainly Python, or is it?
So this is a mix. I will maybe, if we go back to the presentation, I will show a little bit more. But this part, so the listing of the servers, I believe this is Python or maybe Bash. So we are mixing depending on where you're getting the data from. I think for
querying the data, we usually use Bash, and for cleaning and making indeed all the discrepancies check, we use Python, and then we also insert the data in an Oracle account, so we can use SQL. I mean, data modeler, and we can compare that in an Oracle database. Indeed, we insert that information there.
All right.
For example, I can just open up this.
I have a question for you as we're going through. So I saw, this is kind of human driven, somebody clicking on a button. You've got some, and I also saw some scheduled jobs in there as well. Do you have any that are sort of event driven? Anything that is a result of maybe a webhook or something coming out of a message coming out of another system, or is it predominantly sort of either click on a button or?
So for this project, it's only human driven, but we had a plan to have it running daily, so with a schedule. It wasn't enabled yet because we need to do some cleanup. So just to go back a little bit, so that trying to connect to the servers, this is a Bash job. You can see that it's just a loop that goes through the servers, tries to connect as the ORASys. So ORASys is a dedicated account that we use for the management of our servers. And then whenever the return code is 0, so we are able to connect normally, we are adding the server to the successful node, and then we are outputting the node list so that it's used in the second step of the script. And to answer your question about the event-driven, so let's say for the Oracle administration, I think we have one which is connected to, we have a self-service portal where a user can access like management of the Oracle accounts that are associated with his username, with his the Oracle accounts that are belonging to him. And this is a web portal which calls Rundeck in the background. So yes, there are some webhooks. We are calling the Rundeck APIs to run that. So yeah, so we are using human executions. We are using scheduled jobs. that are used sometimes for monitoring as well, but we are also using the API to run and execute. And I will also show you in a second, like quite a nice feature that we are using as well. But just to go back to my train of thought, we created the list of the available servers. Our job, as you can see now, it's finished. We created the global variable with the list of all of the servers, and then we connect to the database and insert the discrepancies and all of this data. We query the raw data from the OEM, and then we have something which is called HTML output. So if I open that, and we remember that I was changing the payD. Let me just maybe stop that. So here you can see that our script has realized that, yes, there is a discrepancy. So the first column is the information that we have in the LDAP. The second column is the running configuration, so the actual running path of the Oracle and the version of the Oracle that we are using. And the third one, this is the OEM information. So here you can see that there is a discrepancy. We have different types of discrepancies, like for example, here for this OEM rept, this is only defined in the LDAP and it's not defined on the server and it's not defined in the OEM. So that's also a kind of a discrepancy. So we have quite a lot of discrepancies like that. They are not very serious, but having a report like that allows us to act on it. And another benefit of creating the HTML report is that if I go into my Outlook, and as you can see, I haven't checked my email in a long time, we get an email. The person that submitted the job is getting the email. So the HTML output is used as a way of, let's say, sending information about the execution report and the output to the email. So the report starts with the information, when was the data refreshed, and then we get the full list of the discrepancies, along with a nice little button that can help us solve the discrepancies. So let's see how that works. So this is the fake discrepancy that I created just to show you a little bit. And now I have unfortunately tried zooming in, but I cannot zoom in. If you look at the lower part of my screen, this is a very interesting URL. So if you look down on my screen, you can see that it's a link that points to a job, but it's also providing some arguments like the payD, so the name, the database unique name, the golden image, which is the version. So essentially, this is like a magical link that will help us, let's say, that will help us run a job a Rundeck job that will fix the discrepancy for us. But it's not going to run it by itself. It will, if I click it will create the normal window that will let me run the job. But this information is pre-filled for me based on what I put in here. So the HTML report already consists some of the hints on how we want to solve the discrepancy. So now to solve this discrepancy, it's as simple as running the job because, as you can see here, the parameters are already filled in. So we can just start the execution, and what this job will do, it will find the server where this database is running on. It will connect to the server and it will fix the discrepancies. So it will see that the LDAP has incorrect information. It will fix the information in LDAP, and then it will see that the monitoring, the information in the monitoring system is also wrong. So yeah, let's see if this works.
Andrzej, while we're waiting for the system, there's a question from Aaron on the Python scripts, and if you use any Git repo for, let's say, collaboration of developing of those scripts.
So to develop these Python scripts, so we have a Git repo which is connected as a, let's say, as a backup, so to speak. So you can configure in Rundeck the possibility to, while we wait, I think here in the project settings, it's possible to set up the SCM, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that's correct. You can push
so we are using that. Yeah, so we are pushing after every major change, we are pushing the changes that were done to our jobs. So this is a way of, let's say, backing up and keeping track of the changes that were being done. So there is a dedicated Git repo that's connected to our Oracle to our Rundeck instance, where we dump essentially all of the configuration of all of the jobs. So in case of any issues with the job, you can always revert. You can import a job from that Git repo. So this is what we are using.
So it's basically a two-fold. So it's the Python script itself that we can push or pull, but also the job, which is containing the Python script, but also the job parameters itself.
Yeah, so the full definition is like all of the, maybe not the full Rundeck configuration, but all of the jobs, the projects, the contents of the scripts, everything is backed up to Git. So so you can do that. For some of our other automation, we are also just using Rundeck as an orchestrator to run a script that's stored in a Git repo, which is synced to our servers. But this, of course, depends on the use case. In this case, all of the logic is of the scripts, all of the logic, the contents of the script, this is all in Rundeck. So here you can see that the script connects to the server. It's fixing the LDAP configuration, and then here it's fixing the EMCLI. We have the monitoring configuration. So let me just go back here. So this report will not refresh automatically, right? Because this is an execution that was done in the past. But what we can do, let me just close it all up for clarity's sake. So let's go back to our project. And just because this is like the logic is split into smaller helper jobs, what we can do, we can now run just parts of it and run our report generation again, but without having to go through this whole long process of connecting to each of the servers, making sure that they are available, which takes like 3 minutes. So what we can do, we can run take LDAP data, which is connecting to the LDAP and putting the LDAP information in the dedicated Oracle database where we keep the discrepancies. So while this is being started, let me do the same thing for the OEM data. So another helper, this one is responsible for connecting to the OEM repository to get the information from the OEM repository.
Yeah, as I said before, all of this information is inserted in an Oracle account. So you can check that the database is already maintaining all the information from the running configuration. So we don't need to run it again. If we run separately the OEM, the take OEM data and the LDAP data, it will insert and refresh the data that is inserted in the Oracle account. And then we can make another report comparing all of that discrepancies found.
Yeah, so this is essentially what I'm showing right now is that we run the helper job that's connecting to the OEM and getting the data from the OEM. We did the same thing for the LDAP. You can see that both of the jobs, they have succeeded. So let's now run the HTML report.
And we have a question from somebody in the audience from Jitesh. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, but if you do have any nested jobs that you have a parent job and a child job, are you using that functionality?
Yeah, I will show that just a second. Let me just if you have any questions, feel free to type them now. Now, because let me just finish my train of thought and then let's go to questions. Because now we are running the HTML report. We have refreshed just the part of the report. So here, if I open up the HTML output, so here you can see that the HTML output, if I look for the payD, it's not here. So if I go into OEM, the discrepancy will be automatically solved just because the script that we run. So this was automatically fixed. And let me just show you in the LDAP. So here you can see that it was the fix me. This was the fake one, the fake discrepancy that we created. And yeah, this has refreshed now, and you can see that this is no longer here. So this was fixed by this job that we are running using this magic URL. Okay, so OEM is super slow for me, so I'm not gonna show it there. Okay, so I think this is pretty much it what we wanted to present in terms of this project. You mentioned that there was a question about the nested jobs, so maybe let's try to show how this is defined in our project. So let's say this is the Oracle configuration discrepancies check. This is the main job that we are running, and when you run it, it's running, let's say, the helpers that are a part of the job. So this is if we go to the definition of this job. So here you can see that this job in practice, this only has like one parameter, but not even a parameter, one value that that's the password to the Oracle account that we are using, and it's running external jobs. So this is essentially just a job that runs 4 steps, which are the helper jobs. So you can see that this is a step which is essentially running the job with this UID, or you can also select choose a job, by clicking here, you can just choose a job that you want to run. So this is one way to do that. And you can see that so after this job is, this step is finished, it's going into the next step. It's running a different helper. And what is amazing about Rundeck, I'm a fan of that, you can mix the types. So for example, you can have an external, you can have a step which is running a job, then you can write some script, that will be run either on your Rundeck machine or somewhere else. So you can do some bash script, and then you can just save it. You can go add another step, which will be an execution of a job reference, and execute a job somewhere else on a different server. You just choose what you want to run, and I think this is super powerful. I'm gonna, of course, I'm not gonna save my changes, so I'm gonna cancel now. But
you can also pass some arguments from each step to step, and this is a cool asset we used indeed in the project, because we need to take all the information from different repositories and do it. That was easy. For example, for the cluster,
yes.
for the cluster list, we use that for running also in the next jobs.
Yeah, so if you look at it in your step list, just for the person that asked the question, it's called reference job, and it just simply means trigger one job, and you can have lists of those. Super useful.
The team,
and also as Isidro mentioned, by having the parameters, you can pass on some information which will be used in your next step. So this is, for example, what we are doing. Like one of the steps, I think it's this one.
This is pretty extensive what you guys have been building for sure.
Yeah.
Imagine doing it without the orchestrator. That will be a really cumbersome task to do, to get all the data.
For sure. Yes. And just, I think like for Isidro, it was easier because we already had, like an instance of Rundeck where the idea was like, yes, let's use Rundeck for this project, because some parts of the logic, they were already handled by Rundeck. So we didn't have to worry about, I don't know, sending emails, because this was already configured for our job. So already Rundeck had an account, it was configured to send emails. There is the activity log, so you can see who was running where. And if you were to write that from the scratch, I mean, this full project, the preparation of that stuff, it took 2 months. But bear in mind that it's also like 2 months of half of that probably was spent on lectures, because the summer student project as well is for the students, it's going to lectures because they are here to learn. So they learn about physics, they visit
I attended them all.
Yeah.
I want to thank you both for explaining how you use the platform in such an extensive way. Truly insightful for that. And we will be following you for other next year. So what other use cases you could find for the platform? But
Yeah,
excellent.
for sure.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah, for the sake of time,
Yes.
I would like to switch now towards my dear colleague Justyn to touch upon his topic of
Yes.
the agenda. And you guys will stay along in the call. If there are any additional questions in the channel, please feel free. But Justyn,
Yeah,
over
sure.
to you, my friend.
Hopefully you can see my screen. I'm actually
Yeah.
not. Yeah, I mean, actually, this follows on in somewhat from what the guys were talking about anyway. I mean, you know, you saw a lot about how, you know, we see people using Rundeck as a self-service platform, right? You know, if you think about the 3 use cases for Rundeck, you know, probably the prime one is self-service, is wrapping up the things that you do every day and putting them in a job that can be used by anybody. You know, it could be an easy button that less technical people can use, things you don't have to think about. So you can leave people to, you know, just to do the job and not have to think about, well, how do I run this bit of code? I mean, a lot of it's been used, those same sort of principles have been used in sort of platform engineering. You know, I mean, it looks like, you know, this is what was happening at CERN has been happening for a long time, even probably before platform engineering was a, you know, was a known discipline. So I did want to talk for just maybe 5 minutes around self-service automation, because again, Martin and I travel around and talk to a lot of both open source users and commercial customers around Rundeck. And you know, the recurring theme, of course, one of the things that we talk about quite a lot is self-service, is enabling users. So I just wanted to get the sort of the brain thinking about maybe some of the ways that you might want to think about this as well. Yeah, so I'm in the solution engineering team, technical role, accompany people like Martin. You know, present quite a bit at different sort of shows. I'm at KubeCon actually, so if anybody's around, come and see us. We've definitely got some new Rundeck swag, so you get some giveaways. There's me and Woz, who I bumped into at San Francisco airport. Super friendly guy. You know, I don't have many fanboy sort of pictures, but I really enjoyed this. So self-service. Now we've already thought, you know, about using Rundeck as a self-service environment, and it's great. You can log in, you've got your buttons, your big buttons, and you know, you get that kind of experience that we saw today. You know, and I really like the HTML output as well in the logs. We use it for sort of basic tables, but actually popping those buttons in there as well is quite innovative. Really, I'm probably going to figure a way to build one of that into one of my demos at some point. That's you know, definitely hats off to you guys for figuring that out. But you know, you've got your jobs. There might be other ways of triggering them. I mean, you know, we talked about event-driven, you know, something that comes out of I don't know, a monitoring tool, or, you know, maybe some other application that says, okay, you need to do something, and let Rundeck do it. But really, this kind of this human-driven thing is a kind of a recurring theme. So, you know, we already looked at what that experience is like from within Rundeck. You know, get your jobs, you can have them use access control lists to make sure that the right people only get the right data. But there is this other area that I'm seeing used more and more, and having sort of Rundeck as the mechanical kind of arms that do all of the work, but are typically triggered by other platforms as well. So, you know, really the classes that I'm going to think about is one. Well, I mean, I think you talked a little bit about homegrown, so your own web interface. You know, you've got your own portal, or, you know, your own environment that you might say, okay, you know, I'd like this piece of IT. You know, it's for me. There's my manager. Away you go, etc. So that, you know, that's definitely one that I see growing. You know, the API can be used to you know, to trigger those sorts of scenarios. But there's these other two in the middle that I'm thinking about and seeing more and more. You know, from either IT service management environments like ServiceNow, Jira, and others. You know, pretty much anything that can either trigger an API or trigger a webhook can be used to, you know, to extend to Rundeck's sort of capability. You know, this that all the front end, all of the, you know, all of the nice drop downs and the menus is in, you know, in a tool that somebody's using every day, but of course then all of the the hard work, the connection to thousands of machines that take care of retries and all of that sort of stuff is handled by Rundeck. And then we've got this class here, which I'm seeing more and more. I mentioned platform engineering, and alongside platform engineering, came this kind of thought about internal developer portals. So what are they? Well, they're self-service UIs, really for development teams to to really reduce the load on kind of the work that they have to do, the amount of things that they have to deal with. Hey, I want to set up a new Node environment. Oh, I've got to install Node. I've got to install MVN. I've got to set up a new Python environment. Oh, I've got to set up Python. I've got to set up pip. I might need to have VM. All those kind of things that you have to think about. The idea is you wrap these up into golden paths within these platforms and allow anybody to have this repeatable, low impact. Let developers spend time developing and not having to spend all their time. And there are tons of them, right? I'm going to show you Backstage today. We work quite a bit with Cortex. We're showing it KubeCon with Cortex, but there are lots of others. Humanitech is one. Port is another one. So we're actually very Switzerland on all of this. If you excuse the excuse the phrase, but we will work with any of these platforms. So I'm going to do quickly some show and tell. I'm not going to go too much into what it's like for the Rundeck experience, but I have got a job here. Oh, let me know. It's only just running locally on my machine, so I'm allowed to default passwords. This runs on my local machine here. I've got a very simple job that I'm running around provisioning some AWS resources. So obviously the commercial product, we do have plugins that help with this kind of thing, but in this case, in open source Rundeck, I'm just using CLI provisioning, and I'll show you a couple of things. I've got all of my access keys stored securely in a vault, and I'm referencing them through a option, and the options, of course, are my variables that I can pass across. You can see those are secure, and I reference them here in the invocation string. Just a tip, I'm just basically exporting these as variables at this point, so they don't appear, and also they are. It's quite a neat way to have that repeatable. So I've got a couple of AWS CLI commands in here. I hit save. And of course, you've seen the experience. You run a job, pick a region, pick a region that you want to run with. How long do I want this to live? We see that as a use case quite a bit. I want a resource. I want them for. I want this for 10 days or something like that, or 30 days or something like that. Run the job, and you've seen this many times. So this is me running this from directly from within Rundeck. So do my provisioning, and then wait for this instance to be available. And you can do this across all of your different cloud resources. It's sometimes quite useful to use Rundeck to sit in front of all of those resources, because of course it means that you've got it controlled from a central location. You've got your login. You've got all of that other that other good Rundeck stuff. So that's me running it from directly from Rundeck. What about from Backstage? So I spent a little bit of time creating a small Backstage action that runs on the scaffolder. So for those of you that know Backstage, or maybe for those that don't really, this is the internal developer portal built originally by Spotify. It's open source, so it fits very nicely with Rundeck. You can sit side by side. You can give it a try, and it's another front end that you would use for maybe for setting up some of these developer environments. You create components, you create services. It holds a service catalog, but I'm going to hit create in this case. Much of it's configured via YAML files. So I've got my Rundeck job that sits here within the scaffolder, which is kind of the action engine within Backstage. And you can see here all of the things that you would see, which map really to our options. So I've got some enums, which is basically multi-selects. I can select, can I do a medium? Can I do a microservice? Things like that. Really, the key part of that is this step. It's this one here that says Rundeck execute, and then I'm going to pass it a set of variables across, just like I would if I was, connecting directly into Rundeck or I was using it from a different platform. I'm going to be just 2 minutes on this, and we can go to some questions. So I go in, I create my component. I've got a Rundeck orchestration here directly in here. I'm happy to share the code for this if anybody's interested. We're looking at putting it somewhere that's a bit more a bit more accessible within the Rundeck resources. But I can then pick my environment, dev, US East 1 is my AMI that I'm going to use. We could grab that from different places. Justyn, and I'm going to hit review, and then I'm going to hit create. And that's failed for some reason. I'm not quite sure. But I'm not going to debug it this time because I've only got 3 minutes left to do this. But in essence, that will trigger my Rundeck job, and I'll end up with some. You can see the one that I created here anyway. I will end up with instances running in AWS. So that was the one that I created directly from Rundeck. You get the idea anyway. So I could do that from Backstage. I could do that from, in this case, ServiceNow. So this is the same interface but built into ServiceNow. You do it in Jira. You can do it in your own sort of web interface. So as you're just still using Rundeck and you're just getting used to working with it, just consider that you're not bound to the UI. The UI is great, but you're not bound to the UI, and there are plenty of other places that you can trigger Rundeck jobs from if you want to.
Justyn, so CERN used the webhooks. I did hear clearly. You used the API eventually, or did you also use webhooks?
No, I'm using the API in this case, but it doesn't matter. I mean, ultimately, it all goes to the same place. It all executes jobs. You can pass values across whether you're using the webhooks or the API. There's some subtle differences, the way it's authenticated, things like that. But it doesn't matter. I mean, the flexibility is there. If you've got something that you want to expose as a webhook interface, or maybe process within the webhook interface, you can do. Otherwise, either is totally fine.
Yep.
Any questions?
Maybe for clarity of doubt for people that listen, we use a lot of terms like the runbook automation and process automation and Rundeck. So Rundeck, for everybody, that's still the open source platform as it is today. No plans there. We're going to continue. But the commercial product is called a runbook automation. And previously, we also called it process automation, but we dropped that. So it's either RBA, runbook automation, commercial, or Rundeck. I just wanted to make that clear.
And I would be remiss. Somebody would tell me, we've done all that. I would also mention that we do have Rundeck that you don't have to run yourself. We have a SaaS version of
a SaaS version, obviously, yeah.
Rundeck also, and an architecture that goes around it. But and if anybody's interested, please just give us a shout, and we can show you how that works.
Xenda, do we have a date for the next one, or is that still to be determined?
Good to see the feedback in the chat. Yes, so the next one will be in person, the 3rd of April during KubeCon. If you happen to be in London from the conference, come meet us. I'll be there, Justyn and Martin as well. It will be a fun happy hour with our friends from AWS and Cortex. So this will be our next one in person. And then at some point during summer, June-ish, at some point, we'll have our next virtual one, and we'll repeat it every quarter. You'll hear from us, don't worry. Just check out the GitHub repo for documentation, for all the recordings. The PDF presentations from Isidro and Andrzej will be there in the next days. You will get an email with all the links. And join us at PD Commons to continue this conversation. Ask your questions about Rundeck open source, about runbook automation, the SaaS version, and any of the other PagerDuty products. This is a really nice session. Any other considerations, gentlemen?
Let me just add one more thing. So thank you all for joining. And on behalf of CERN, if you're ever in the area of Switzerland, in Geneva, feel free to give us a visit. We have a visitor center. So you can learn about what we are doing, about the physics of the stuff. It's also very child-friendly. So if you want to bring along your family, it's also like an interactive museum where the kids can play with a lot of stuff. They can touch everything. So it's quite fun. So if you're ever in Geneva, feel free to give us a visit.
And if you say that you were in this meetup, you get a nice hat, such as Andrzej
You
had.
can get a hat like that. Actually, there is a shop for the visitors, so you can actually buy one and bring it home with you with the CERN logo. But of course, like it's a gift shop. But you can also like sneak in the gift shop, take a selfie, and run out. Yeah.
And then you look like a CERN employee.
Yeah, on LinkedIn.
On the topic of gifts and giveaway, if you go to PD Commons in the introductions and say hello, say what you thought about this event, you can also get a gift from us. Thank you, everyone. This is really great. Thanks for the time. I'll see you in the next one.
Till the next one. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.